Ok. Oi, meu nome é Jory. Essa é capoeira.
The way that I came into it was that I've been looking at videos on the internet of cool moves and stuff, and then I read that some of these people kind of train either taekwondo or capoeira, and I was like, and I'd heard of capoeira before, like that it's this kind of, I guess I didn't even necessarily know if it really existed or if it was just something from video games and stuff like that, but you know, it's kind of the martial art that's ridiculously impractical, kind of, you know, like it's, you know, does that even exist? Could that even work, or is it just, you know, like. And then I saw that someone was training it, and it's like if you'd come to a page about a zoo or something like that, and read that they've got some unicorns there. It's like, I gotta check it out. Like that's you know, like people do capoeira, and I looked on the internet. It's like, yeah, there's a capoeira branch in Auckland. I was like,
there was just something about it that interested me. I couldn't tell you exactly what it was. I remember seeing a guy play in Amsterdam in the Hotto. He played a cool game. And I liked something about that.
The movement was definitely one of the main things that inspired me to keep practicing. Like it was definitely that. But the music was very captivating as well. Hearing the singing and the way I remember my first class and being in a harder and hearing the singing just start up like that. It was like, whoa, there's something in here. It's like, whoa, what was that, you know? And that was one thing.
Well, I think it was all of it, you know. The songs were kind of, didn't mean too much to me at the beginning, although because I didn't understand the lyrics, but I understood and felt the vibe from it, you know. It was a good vibe that was created for the game to happen, so that always is instantly appealing.
Yeah, no, it was definitely the movement from the first actually. When I first saw the music, I had no idea what it was all about. And it took me a wee while to get into it, but once I did, I just went into it as much at least as the movement, if not more so.
I trained in California from that time from the end of 1984 until about 1990 when my daughter was born, and then I just stopped training. But I was still going and seeing them, that kind of thing. And then in 1991, I moved back to New Zealand, and then I started teaching classes in '92.
At the beginning, you don't think of it as a journey. If you'd said to me back in the early days, so now you're starting a 10-year journey, 20-year, 30-year journey in capoeira, I'd be like, yeah, right. It's coming along to try a few things. And you know, even after 2 years of capoeira, I remember thinking, God, I've been doing it for 2 years. Am I going to keep going?
To a lot of martial artists, it doesn't seem like it. You know, it will often seem like it's not so much of a martial art because it's a game, you know, and there's music involved in it and stuff. But then to some dancers, like they come along expecting to do a dance class, and people try to kick them in the face.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's not. It doesn't seem like you know. It doesn't seem like much of a dance either.
I don't know if the music is. I think there's always been an element of music in capoeira, but it's developed. It's not like it is now. You know, like for example, the berimbau was the central musical instrument of capoeira now, but actually it's the last instrument that's been brought into capoeira.
Some sort of cultural form in Africa has music associated with it. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, from there looking out at other things, then instead of asking why does capoeira have music, you'd equally ask why does karate not have music, you know? Why do these other martial arts not have music?
And so I'd say if you're musically inclined, it's as good as a reason to start as being attracted by the movement.
I'd say it also comes from a point of kind of celebration, because as you say, it's not from a military. It's not. The idea is all about the fighting. It would be if it was a martial art. So when you put capoeira as a martial art, it never quite sit right, I think, especially probably for people in kind of World Cup in Angola.
You know, people quite often say, well, if this is a martial art, if this is a fighting art, why are you on the ground all twisted up into some upside down funny movement? The emphasis is on escaping from an attack untouched and unhurt and coming back into a position of strength. Because some of the movement, some of the positions that we're in are incredibly vulnerable, but I think that's deliberate, you know, and that's where the game aspect comes in.
I think that's what keeps capoeira interesting for all these years, you know. Some of us have been in it for years and years and years and years, and there's still things that we need to work on, and it's a matter of, in a way, kind of refining and personal development or whatever. And in the game too, you've got all these different things. Are you doing it? Are you doing things right? Are you going to rub someone up the wrong way? Are you going to lose your control or keep your control? Are you going to let your emotions get away with you if someone trips you up? And like there's so many different subtleties to the game, and the harder is really the situation where you get put on the spot. And I think that's why we all really like, although we train, you know, every week we do our training, the harder when that comes, that's when the unpredictable, the unexpected comes, and that's when you're kind of tested in a way. You test yourself, and you get the chance to test other people, and that's what keeps it interesting.
Capoeira, in a way, is a window into, you know, to look into the culture of Brazil. You know, and you know, like when you look through a window, you only see a certain amount, right? And that is really what it's like. You do only see a certain amount, but at least it gives you the opportunity to see what the other options are.
I think that for me is the richness of this path in a way, because you start just understanding that it's capoeira is part of a wider culture.
And so since then, I really, like, a lot of the time I'll be talking to someone, I'll be like, I know you don't really do capoeira, but it's like in capoeira when you do this. And because I want to explain to them some feeling that I had, and the only way that I can understand that feeling is it's like that feeling that you have when you do this and someone does that in capoeira. Or it's like this feeling that you have when something happens in capoeira. Like. And so maybe in a lot of ways it is a more simple way to understand some of the immensely complex things that happen to a person.
There's no winner or loser in a game of capoeira, and there's no points, you know. But the idea is really to teach each other, you know. And so somebody has a habit of doing something that's really, you know, that leaves them, you know, sort of in a weak position. Then you play on that until they strengthen that up. You play on it, either they change what they're doing so that they become more defended, or you know, they stop what they're doing. Almost everything about capoeira is that little bit different, and it's good. And I think the important thing is to persevere through a certain period of time where you might feel discomfort. You know, like some people just aren't into singing songs that aren't in their language, for example, you know, and at first that's uncomfortable or embarrassing even, you know, but actually it's good to persevere through that, and you may never get over that, and you know, it may never be part of what you want to do in your life, or you may go, actually I want to learn, you know, how to speak this language, you know, and so it actually opens up a whole new avenue, you know, of learning.
It's just natural.